I have the wildest husband-sister OP debacle you have ever heard of. Guys, when you hear this story, you're going to be asking yourself, what is wrong with this husband? Let's jump into it.
Most times I don't understand how people are outright being manipulated. But the moment you bring it to their notice that a friend or family member is manipulating them, they take offense and call you a homebreaker. I learned this the hard way with my husband, so I stopped interfering. From the first time I met my sister-in-law, Alicia, I knew we weren't going to be the best of friends. Not to sound judgmental, but Alicia, was much to handle. She made it seem like she was the center of the universe and the world revolved around her all alone. For example, the first time Matt introduced us to each other, she kept talking about how she had just purchased the latest Louis Vuitton bag and a pair of shoes worth $2,000, and bragged about how her friends on social media were literally begging her to show off the stuff that she had gotten. It did not make any sense to me, and I didn't care if she had just purchased Pluto. All I wanted from Matt and me was to get to know his sister. That day, it was obvious that she wanted me to know that we did not belong in the same class. She bragged about being friends with said celebrities, clubbing with the elites, and crazy stuff. Most importantly, she wanted me to know she was almost $2 million rich, and she could do anything she pleased. Matt and Alicia were the only kids of their late parents, and before their parents passed away, they left a large chunk of money for them. Matt got most of the businesses, while Alicia got the prized possession, which she eventually sold to fund her lavish lifestyle. According to Matt, even when their parents were alive, Alicia was more like a spoiled brat of the family, and she got whatever she wanted. She was the oldest, but never acted like one, and despite being a pain in the butt, her parents still loved her and spoiled her silly. Even before I met Alicia, I had seen several of her pictures. Being his only and close surviving family member, Matt could not stop talking about his older sister. Even though he was the younger brother, Matt believed it was his responsibility to look after his older sister, help her out in times of trouble, and, of course, stick to her no matter what. The reason the two were so close was basically because after their parents died, their aunts and uncles, whom Matta and Alicia looked up to, tried to absolutely manipulate them and just turn them against each other, so they could take control of the business and houses Matt and Alicia inherited from their parents. Thankfully, they figured out, what was going on in time, and they cut ties with their uncle and aunties. Since Alicia was born into old money, she was kind of difficult to impress, and she selected the kind of people she always hung out with. Believe me, I tried my best to get along with Alicia, just to impress Matt because he made it clear that if I loved him, then I had to love and accept his sister too. Unlike Alicia, Matt went to the university, which was where we met. We started out as just friends, but in our final year we took things to a different level, and after almost a year of being together, we decided to travel back to his country, so he could introduce me to Alicia, his sister of the year. There's no kidding there. Alicia gave me such a tough time each time, and every time I complained to Matt, he would tell me, and I quote, to be the bigger person, and not let Alicia get to me. He really wanted us to work out because we were planning to get married, and I was about to become the second most important woman in his life. But no matter how I tried to be the bigger person, Alicia always just made it difficult. She always had something to complain about me. Either she'd complain that I was wearing cheap knockoff clothing or shoes, or she would talk about my cologne. She'd even go as far as telling me that her dog smelled better than my cheap cologne. Yeah. Because of her constant complaints, I got an expensive cologne, hoping that she would stop talking or complaining, but she said something that I can never forget. She said, "Oh, Amy, I didn't know poor people like you could afford the good stuff." Wow, I mean, to her, she was Little Miss Perfect, and I was the one with no fashion sense. You know, sometimes she would complain to Matt in my presence about me being boring and just straight up tasteless. And she would offer to introduce some of her girlfriends to Matt, just in case he had a change of mind about me. She was always making me feel worthless, but I never tried to express how I felt because I was trying to be the bigger person. I knew Matt loved his sister and wanted me and her to get along so we could be a big happy family, but tolerating his sister was not easy. For the remaining 1 year that Matt and I dated, I constantly had to turn a deaf ear to all of Alicia's comparisons, and I tried as much as I could to ignore her, so we would not get into a fight. Matt and I ended up dating for 2 years before we got married, and in the 1 year I got to know Alicia, I discovered some parts of her that Matt never talked about. Firstly, she was a chronic manipulator, and Matt was always her prey. Secondly, she was a chronic debtor, and in the desperation to pay off her debt, she fell deep into gambling. Within a short period of knowing her, I found out that all the expensive stuff she bought to impress her online friends and family was gotten on credit, and the debts were racking up, and she could not meet up with repayment. At the same time, I did not know that Matt was encouraging Alicia's habit by always bailing her out or lending her money to gamble, money which she never paid back. Well, that was not my problem because Matt was her brother and he believed it's his responsibility to take care of her. It got out of hand when Alicia sold almost everything her parents had willed to her, including their vacation house that belonged to her and Matt. Worse than that, she lost the house that she lived in to gambling and she was literally homeless. By this time, Matt and I were in the middle of preparing for our wedding, and his business was not doing so well. Before Alicia moved in, he told me that Alicia would only be with us for a couple days till she got a new apartment, but she ended up staying for weeks. Worst of all, when Alicia moved in, she literally expected that I would be her maid. Every morning, she would wake up and mess up the kitchen with her disastrous breakfast, and would leave the mess for me to clean up. She never cleaned her room and did not contribute a dime to groceries. I understand that she was going through a hard time, but it had nothing to do with bringing home her friends and hosting parties. Most of the time, I would return from work and the whole house would be littered with empty bottles of alcohol, rubber, empty cans, and used cups. Her guest would make a mess of the entire house and Matt never said a word. He always supported Alicia, and each time I tried to complain, he'd either say I was being uptight or did not understand the bond of two siblings since I'm an only child. Aside from that, Alicia could not keep anything, not a job, not a boyfriend, always thought that she was better than other people, and her braggy lifestyle chased everyone away from her, including her own friends. The only person who loved her unconditionally was Matt. Fast forward to the wedding. Matt and I wanted our wedding to be low-key and quiet. Since his parents were quite popular at one time, well, we didn't want the masses to know about it, but Alicia returned that plan and ruined it. She took it to her social media to announce that Matt and I were getting married on our wedding day. We had more than we expected. It was so annoying because I wanted our wedding party to be something intimate between friends and family, and not something a total stranger could just waltz into. As if blowing up our cover wasn't enough, while the reception was going on, Alicia made a social media post stating that she was the one who bought my wedding gown, paid for my bridesmaid dresses, and handpicked the best event planner. She ensured that she painted herself as the knights with lots of funds, while I appeared as the pauper. She literally ruined my day, but I had to put up a smile and act like everything was cool until after the party. After the party, I was furious and I told Matt about it, thinking he would talk to his sister, but he did not. Not the way I expected, at least. They just had a random conversation about it, and he returned to tell me not to take it personally, that Alicia was only being Alicia. That was the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and out of anger, I lashed back at Alicia. We could not even go for our honeymoon the following day as planned because Alicia pretended to have an emotional breakdown, and her nice brother could not bear to leave his only sister in that state. For the next 2 weeks after we tied the knot, Alicia acted like she was depressed. She had me bring breakfast in bed to her, clean up her room, and do her laundry. I was already 7 months pregnant, and yet Matt insisted that I looked after Alicia since I was the one who triggered her depression. Thankfully, I'd say about a month later, she was tired of pretending and was back to her normal self. I expected that after Alicia was good, she would at least move out of the house to give us some privacy. But oh boy, I was wrong. Any woman who's been pregnant can attest to how tiring it is to deal with all the chores and clean up the house for 2 grown adults. I mean, come on. Even in my condition, I still do the cooking. Went grocery shopping and cleaned almost every day. Alicia never helped one day and did not offer to. When I gave birth to our son, I was in the hospital for a couple days and she never came to visit. By the time I got home with our baby, the whole house was a mess and it had a terrible stench. She and her gambler friends had been drinking and smoking as usual, and nobody cared to clean up the house a baby was coming home to. It was too much work for me at that point, so Matt had to call a cleaning agency to help us out. After our son's birth, Alicia continued to live with us, and that's when things went south. Being a new mom was not easy for me, so at some point I stopped cooking and only ate out since Matt was barely at home. One morning, while I was trying to get our son to sleep after hours of him staying awake, Alicia returned home by 3 a.m. with a couple of friends, and they were trying to cook very loudly. I tried to talk to her to keep their voices down a bit, but Alicia took offense and started yelling at me. She told me that she was in her brother's house so she could do whatever she wanted, and I had no right to tell her to keep her voice down. In the process of yelling, she woke up our son and Matt woke up too. It was so frustrating because even Matt was not helping with the baby. He would come up from work and go straight to bed, while I'd have to deal with the fatigue and unending cries. At that point, I could not take it anymore. Alicia was driving me crazy, and Matt was not doing anything about it, so I told him to make a choice. Either Alicia had to leave the house or I would leave with our son. I knew it was going to be a difficult decision for him, and he would not let his sister leave, so I ended up crashing at my friend's place for a few days. I was so furious that Matt picked his sister over me at that moment. I realized that Alicia was always going to come first before me and our son. The following day, I expected that Matt would try to come and get us, but he didn't. A whole week passed before I heard from him. Even though I didn't want to go home, I had to do it for our son. By the time I returned home with the baby, Alicia was gone and all of her stuff was out of the house. To be honest, I didn't care if she moved out on the streets, and I didn't ask either. Some weeks after I moved back home, I noticed that Alicia has been posting pictures of a very fancy house on her social media. The house looked expensive, but I never bothered to find out it was her because it was impossible for her to buy a house like that. Even when she posted that she had recently purchased the house, I doubted it because I thought that she was only trying to deceive her followers again. It wasn't until a couple of months later that I found out Alicia won a lottery, and it was a good amount of money. So she used part of it to purchase the house and used the remaining to pay off her debts and squander the rest as usual. Since the incident that happened that morning, Alicia never came to the house again. Matt always went to her, and she did not even come to our son's 1-year birthday. Meanwhile, since I'd moved back, the relationship between Matt and I have gotten worse. He barely spent time with me and our son and was always at Alicia's house. Our intimacy life dropped, and I didn't even know the man that I married anymore. Well, the only thing that he did was spend time with his son, and anytime I'd ask him for money for groceries or anything important, he'd complain that business was bad, and I'd end up taking care of the things myself. For all the time the nanny looked after our son while I went to work, I single-handedly paid her. It was almost like the only thing he cared about was his son. While Matt and I were living as roommates instead of a couple, I noticed that Alicia began to call him more and more. If she did not call him at least twice in the morning, she would definitely call him at night. The funny part was that I never heard what the conversation was about because Matt always answered the calls in private. Well, just a couple of days ago, I eavesdropped on Matt's conversation with Alicia, and I found out that he's been seeing a girl. Emily. I gathered that she's still in college, and that explains his late nights and always wanting to answer his calls in private. Turns out Alicia and Emily are both online influencers, and Alicia hooked them up. Not just that, I also found out Matt had been paying the house mortgage for Alicia. and her co-signed a house of $2 million for her. And now that she's blown all of her lottery money, she has no one to just help her with the mortgage except for Matt. Right now, I don't feel betrayed, but I feel stupid. For months, I've been taking care of the house expenses, thinking that Matt's business is just struggling, only to find out that he's not only cheating on me, but paying mortgage for his sister. What do I do now? At this point, I'm mentally and emotionally drained, and I cannot continue like this. There I was, beating myself up about the changes in my body. I thought the reason Matt stopped touching me and paying attention to me was because the pregnancy changed my body, not knowing that Alicia had hooked him up with a younger woman. I'm literally in tears, guys. To think that I wasn't ready for a child, but Matt insisted that we kept the baby when I found out I was pregnant? Heck, we weren't even married then, but since we were on our way to building a family, I agreed to keep the child. I need your advice. What do I do? We're not even 2 years old and I'm already tired. Update number 1. Hello guys, thank you so much for your comments. I definitely feel better. Someone's asking if I did not think Matt would choose his sister over me. Sincerely, I never expected any of this to happen. He just changed and it was almost like I didn't even know him anymore. Would you guys believe me if I told you that we had not had a proper conversation since that day that I told Matt to choose between me and his sister? Since Alicia moved out of the house, he changed completely and only speaks to me if I talk to him. The only time I see him so happy is when he plays with our son or feeds him. Trust me, guys, I've apologized repeatedly. I explained to him that I was so burnt out and frustrated that night, but it had not changed anything. Deep down, I do not regret that Alicia moved out. She had crossed her boundaries and did not even care if we were newlyweds. You all have no idea what it feels like to have an adult act like a toddler. I know that Matt thinks I disrespected his older sister, but it's still not a good enough reason for him to cheat on me. When I watch a cute YouTube video of a couple taking care of their baby or a vlog, what it looks like to care for a newborn, I'm always in tears because Matt never did that with me. On so many occasions, he would always come home after midnight, and most times, our son would be asleep by then. You guys, I would not be lying if I said this past year of our marriage was hell on earth. Matt turned out to be the complete opposite of what I envisioned. Now, concerning the mortgage, I don't even know what to say. I never imagined that Matt would let his sister convince him to co-sign a house for $2 million. How did he expect her to pay back the mortgage? I mean, it's just hilarious. The truth is, when I realized that Alicia was a manipulator, I tried to warn Matt, just about her. But I was clearly wasting my time, because each time I asked him to be a little strict with his sister, he would remind me that I was an only child and did not understand the bond between two siblings. So far, I've had enough of his financial complaints. I can't carry on like this. I feel like I'm alone in this marriage. Matt isn't just physically absent, he's emotionally absent too. Even though he takes time for his son, how about me? So far, I've been struggling with balancing work and looking after our son. I've been thinking of divorce, but I wouldn't want to raise our son alone. My mom was a single mother, and I saw how much she struggled to take care of me and simply provide. So guys, please give me some advice. What do I do at this stage? Matt's always going to pick Alicia over me, and things are likely to get worse. I look forward to your comments. Update number 2. Hey everyone, thank you for taking our time to respond to my post. I really appreciate your comments and suggestions. I moved out of the house as you all suggested, and even though the apartment I rented is a small one, it's still a better place than living with Matt. I feel more alive here. So I confronted Matt a few days ago about his affair, and he did not look very surprised. He told me to face that he was a man, and he could be with as many women as he wanted, and there was nothing that I could do about it. Guys, I don't know what happened to Matt, but he is not the man I used to know. I'm so confused at the moment, I don't know if he had been pretending the whole time or if he simply changed. Matt used to be so caring and he literally adored me. Can you guys believe that since I moved out of the house, Matt has not called to ask after me or his son. Just yesterday, I stumbled upon his pictures on Facebook. Guess what, guys? He took his girlfriend to the same place we planned to go to our honeymoon, and he's been flaunting pictures of her beautiful body. This feels like a total slap in the face. I've never felt so insignificant in my life. Meanwhile, I decided to do a little digging on his business, and I found that he's still doing well. Nothing has changed. It means he was only cooking up excuses so he would not take care of his responsibilities at home. At this point, I feel no pity for him anymore. I guess I was never in their league, and he was only trying to turn me into someone I wasn't. I really regret not giving Alicia a piece of my mind back then. I would have felt better, fulfilled. I've decided to go ahead with the divorce, and I'm hoping I can get a good lawyer that'll help me with alimony. I'll soon quit my job to become a full-time mother, so I can look after our son. I'll be contacting a lawyer soon. I'm so pained right now, and I wish I could make Matt pay for everything that he's done to me. I know Alicia wants me gone, and divorcing her brother, Matt, without Amy, will be like a dream come true for her, but I don't mind. I don't want to be in a situation where I'll constantly wonder if I'm good enough or not. I know Matt loves his sister, but he's 34. He's not 6. His family is supposed to be his priority, yes, but he's still obsessed with his older sister, who's a master manipulator. I guess I wasn't lucky for love this time, so maybe next time I'll be lucky. Thank you so much, guys. I will make another update after everything is settled. I don't know when that'll be, but I'll certainly make another. Thank you. Update number 3. Hey, community. You're all absolutely the best. Thank you for supporting me at my lowest, and so I know it's been months and you're all eager to know how things turned out for Matt and me. Well, I served him the papers, and when I did, he did not look bothered. The only thing he demanded was a paternity test, to be sure he was the father of our son. Thankfully, when the paternity test results came out, it was a match. No one told me that getting a divorce is not exactly a very smooth ride. It wasn't as easy as I expected it to be, and there were days I thought I was making a terrible mistake. Thank goodness I was strong enough and I pulled through for our son. So while the whole divorce process was going on, Matt did not expect that I would ask for so much money and alimony. It came as a shock to him, and Alicia, I know the amount that I asked for was a bit outrageous, but I knew Matt could afford it. After all, he was comfortably paying off his sister's heavy mortgage, right? What I did not expect was Alicia's actions. After Matt and Alicia found out about the alimony, they were livid. Alicia most specifically. She even confronted me one time and called me lots and lots of names. She said she knew that I've always been a gold digger from the very first moment that she met me. Wow, but she didn't know I was greedy one too. I was so mad, so I told her to get her old gold mine if it were easy, and she slapped me in anger. I'm happy people were around when she slapped me first, or else she would have said that I attacked her. I knew it was a perfect opportunity to get a lot of things off my chest, so I returned the slap and added a few soft blows. I thought things would end there, only for me to wake up the next morning to several tags on Facebook. It turned out that Alicia had posted my picture on Facebook and she wrote a lot of horrible crap about me. She called me a gold digger, said I had stolen her brother's money, and she said all sorts of terrible things. Guys, guess what? I sued her. I sued her for the defamation of character, and she heavily paid. Thank goodness I've taken a couple of screenshots for evidence because she took down the post, deleted all the pictures, and claimed that I was making things up. Too bad that she had to borrow money from Matt to pay her fine. Concerning the divorce and the alimony, the court ruled in my favor, and I've never been happier. For sure, Matt's going to have a lot of payments to make for a long time, and I hope this teaches him a lesson. Most times I feel really bad, but on the second thoughts I don't. I recently found out that Matt and his girlfriend were preparing to get married, but after she found out the big mess that he's gotten himself into, she left him. A smart move, girl. Dodging a bullet. Finally, I'm free to start life afresh and look after my little bundle of joy, of course with his father's alimony in my pocket.
Well, I guess the best thing that came out of this was that OP won the court case and ultimately was awarded the alimony, but guys, I can't help but think to myself, what was this husband thinking? Throughout this entire journey, I mean, the weird relationship with his older sister, the $2 million house that he helped mortgage for, it was just so bizarre and so strange that you would give up on your wife and kid and go do all this extra stuff. It was just so bizarre. I want to know your thoughts about this story, so go ahead guys, drop your comments down below in the comment section, let's discuss it. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito, I want to welcome you, and if you want daily videos, go ahead, click that subscribe button. Also, if you enjoyed the video, it doesn't hurt to drop a like and a comment as well. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and just remember one thing, it's cool to be kind. Peace.